1. We're live.
No, that was all wrong. Do it again. Rewind. Rewind. Start over.
Let's stop the stream. Start a new one.
Give them a new link.
Signing off. Signing off.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello from the Produce Like a Pro Academy studios here in, where are we? Laurel Canyon, LA.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
We are privileged to have Mr. Joe Carrell with us today. Hey, Joe.
How you
Pleasure
doing?
to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I've followed Joe on social media for a while now, and when I saw the email with Joe's name on, I was like, I'm going to pick that guy's brains.
All right.
And it just so happened that we can do it live.
So I needed to bring my brain with me? Oh,
Well,
I left it back at the
I
hotel.
mean, you're a drummer, right? So you're,
I am a drummer, so my brain is the size of a walnut.
We can relate. We're on the same page with that. And I believe Eric is going to brave the front of the camera as well. I don't know where to.
Is Eric going to be with us?
I think so. Eric's doing his hair,
Nice.
trimming his beard.
Nice. we do have an extra chair here.
I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'll sit here.
Well, let's talk about Greek salads.
I'm more of a Caesar salad.
Okay. All right, so you just got to
to
monitor, make sure that everything stays on.
Yeah, look at that. I can control the whole stream from here now.
Nice.
The PC over there, controlling it right here. Love it.
Very cool. All right, well, no time like the present.
Just in case any F drums are dropped, you can. Yeah, who forgot in the chat? Read it off.
We have Alex Wilson, Chris Kersey, Anita Potter, Sheila, which is spell the T with she, Bruno, Tesoro. This is where I'm gonna start butchering names because then it's gonna be like, where? Cletus Christ, Chaz, Todd's Vault, Todd Greenwood. Who else? I think that's
all the important people.
There's still. Well,
That's all. So many of the cool people have been mentioned, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Richard, Austin, Keith, Bruno, Rocket Recording Studio, Mr. Steve Tuck. I think I have everyone. Global Guitar. You guys get the point. You're all here. We love you all.
Nice.
Welcome, everyone. So, Joe, you started playing drums, I believe.
I did, yeah.
What age were you?
I think I was 7 years old. 7. Yeah, I didn't ask for him. My dad got me a drum kit for Christmas.
He must be the only parent in history to have bought their child a drum kit.
But that's because he worked out of the house, so he wasn't going to have to endure it. Mom was.
Right. Okay. He wanted to annoy your mum. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
This is making sense. So, started playing at 7. Where did your musician trajectory take you to end up being a full-time producer, mix engineer?
Great question. So I was a very serious drummer. I mean, I played guitar. I took guitar lessons for a few years, that kind of a thing. But drums were I mean, it was my everything. Honestly, at one time, and I wanted to be Jeff Porcaro. You know, most kids grow up, they want to be Michael Jordan or they want to be, whomever. And I wanted to be Jeff Porcaro. He was like the be all end all for me. So I was a very serious drummer. I would drive from my hometown in Illinois down to Nashville, 3.5 hours, like on weeknights, to do like master classes and seminars and all that kind of a thing. But and the very first time I stepped into it, I was always obsessed with sound. I mean, like always. But the first time I stepped into a studio to record in the early 90s, as a drummer, I wasn't there to do any of this stuff. I just absolutely fell in love with the environment. I didn't want to leave. Like after my drum parts got down and the other guys were going to do their overdubs and stuff, it's like, no, I'm not. I know this is an hour away from home, but I'm staying here. Yeah. I'm not interested in going home. There's lights blinking. Oh. There's meters moving. You know what I mean?
I was exactly the same. That
digital tape spinning.
I fell in love with the production process. And
absolutely.
The recording process. There's no magic like it.
Yeah.
I don't think. So what exactly did you want? How did you move though from drums? There must have been a moment when you thought, do you know what, I need to do this on my own, or I can maybe do this better, or I have an opportunity to work with someone who can teach me how to do it better?
It's a great question. It's playing in clubs and doing those first couple records with a local band that I was in, never happy with the drum sounds. And so I started being like, well, I'll just get my own sound. And again, I was always obsessed with sound and recording, but I wanted it to be part of my drumming. I didn't know it was going to be the be all end all, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So I I bought a Mackie the 16 channel 1604. You remember those that came out in the early 90s? I bought black what were they called? The blackface ADATs. You know, digital tape that was on a VCR tape. Remember those? Does anybody?
Not me.
That's showing my age. But it was a high-end VHS tape, and you would sync the machines up, and it recorded 8 tracks of digital audio on a VHS tape, like what we'd watch movies on. Yeah. Kid you not. But anyway, Alesis MIDI verbs and micro verbs and. You know, their compressors, the little Yamaha 2020 compressor. I started buying all that stuff and practicing in my bedroom. And I started subscribing to EQ Magazine and Mix Magazine. And I was ingesting anything I could get my hands on. So all of a sudden, my passion was starting to shift slowly. Okay. You know what I mean?
What kind of age were you at this point?
Oh, I was in my early 20s.
Right.
Early 20s. So I was still playing all the time, but all of a sudden an opportunity opened up to be an assistant for Bobby Bradley. So Nashville was the music industry that is Nashville was founded on 2 men, Owen Bradley and Chet Atkins. You know, a lot of you guys out there probably know that. Music Row is Music Row because that is where those 2 guys built their studios. I mean, everything revolved around those 2 guys. So Bobby, from the idolized his Uncle Owen. Like, you know, I mean, he recorded the Patsy Cline albums, Loretta Lynn albums. I mean, you know, all this historic country music, that was his uncle. So he idolized his uncle. So right after he graduated high school, he got to start working as an assistant in Owen's studio. So he came up in that legendary environment from 17 years old, you know. And so I got a chance to assist him, which is like getting to be, you know, on the ground level of a legendary Nashville family. You know what I mean? And learn all of Owen's recording techniques that had evolved from I don't know, that late 50s maybe, maybe early 60s. But anyway, it was one of those things I couldn't turn down. I mean, how do you turn that down, right? So I wasn't gonna be playing the drum kit. That means I was gonna be in the control room. But I already knew I was in love with the control room, and I'd already started cutting my, you know what I mean? I already had hours in the bedroom, but I was not ready for the real world that is Nashville. I'll be the first to admit I was green.
Right.
And
was there a moment you realized that and had that kind of
oh my God,
squeaky
the
time?
very first time I ever sat in on a session with Bobby, my role as an assistant was setting up microphones, you know, and that kind of a stuff.
Were you in charge of trying to get the phase right on the
No.
drum kits?
No. I you know, this is what he wanted. I brought him out. We, you know, writing numbers right on the kick drum was plugged into this number on the wall. That kind of stuff. And which those guys need help doing that kind of stuff. But after that, my job was to kind of stay out of the way, and thank God it was, because I just sat in the back corner like, you know, I'm just in shock of the musicianship, how fast everything happened, how Bobby managed a session from the control room. I was not at all ready for that. And the thing is, no one is. I get that all the time from my own interns that come out of, prestigious schools. Until they see a tracking session actually happen the way a tracking session happens, and the interaction and the speed and the efficiency that the engineer, the producer, and the studio musicians operate at, it's one of those like, oh my God, wow kind of moments. And you're not ready for it. But the cool thing is that you get in the right camp, like I did. They know that. They know you're not ready. You know, you have some basic skill level, some basic knowledge that you're still beneficial to them to have in the room for the things that they do need that you can handle. But they're sewing into you all the time. You know what I mean? Teaching you slowly to get to their level. And then at some point, actually, then it's like, okay, now I get to sit in the tape op chair. You know, and I could be tape operator on digital tape. By then, it wasn't analog tape. And everything just kind of blows up from there. You know, you learn so much of who I am now came from those days, because that's what Bobby did. You know, they're your heroes, right? So you want to emulate a lot of what they do, and then of course over the years you change this, you change that, and that's how you become who you are. Mm-hmm. You know, but you kind of start like if if you're going to do a session right now, you're going to do 80% of what Warren does, right? I mean, it's because that's what you know and that's what you came up with or came up under. But yeah, the thing is I was going to say it was a slow progression, but it really wasn't, because the day I took Bobby's job, or the job with Bobby, and we started, all of a sudden it was probably what he can tell you, sleeping in studio, sleeping on studio couches. I remember sleeping under a piano. I did. I slept under a piano. I mean, it's just you're just go. Those assistant days are hard, man. The money's the worst money you're gonna ever make, and you're gonna work the most hours. I mean, just insane hours, because I'd have to be there before him, and be there after he would leave. And so if he was working a 12-hour day and I was working 16s, it's just. But man, that's how you become who you are.
Yeah. Were you ever secretly hoping that a drummer didn't turn up for a session and you could be the guy?
100%.
Did it happen?
Oh no.
Right.
No. No. And you know what? The first time you have to, no matter how good you think you are, I was a big fish in a small pond, right? So I was the drummer in my area, and then you go to Nashville, and you realize that on the pecking order of talent, I'm actually so it's probably best that I'm not at the drum set.
Yeah, I had a similar thing moving from Sheffield to London. I was like, okay, right.
Yeah, you get humbled. But the cool thing is, I got to get humbled secretly. I was in the control room noticing that drummer could burn me circles around me, and I didn't have to have anybody prove it to me. I watched it. I knew that he was that much better than me, and I could just be secretly humbled without anybody knowing. And of course, I'm telling everybody now.
Are you still playing drums now then?
Not near as much as I want to.
Okay.
I mean, I got to say, I remember playing in the last 2 years. I played on one track that I produced. But that's okay. I mean, it's okay, because I'm all the passion that I had as a drummer transferred into this side of the glass. Just bam.
How do you think that is? Because I've done a lot of live sound work, and the best live sound engineers, bar one or two people, are drummers, in my opinion. There's something about drummers having a logical brain, I think, that just knows how to kind of break down a structure, create a methodology, focus on the important things, which are obviously vocals first. That's what everyone's singing along to, and then drums, because that's what everyone's moving along to.
I wish I had an answer for why that is. I've heard a lot of people say that. Honestly, a lot of people say that.
Not that I'm biased.
No. But I don't know what it is. I've tried to figure that out before, because there's some truth to it. There is, but I don't know why. And I wonder sometimes if it's because as a drummer, I think a lot of it depends on the genre that we grew up playing or whatever. But if you're like a real versatile guy and you got to play in clubs, play a lot of cover tunes and things like that, you learn. Of course, you're copying the parts of great musicians. Drummers, when we're not playing, because when we are playing, but we're playing cross stick, when we're playing hat, when we're playing ride cymbal, when we're halftime, when we're full time, crashing a cymbal, for the ultimate, like dynamics are a huge part of what we do. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that's why mix, translation, and production. I'm not saying it is, but I wonder if that has anything to do with it, because we have to build the foundation of the dynamic range of the song all the time. We know, okay, here's the chorus, we have to ramp it up. So we're going to go to the ride cymbal and now a full snare backbeat.
And maybe step the eighths on the hi-hat.
Right, or whatever. Open the hi-hat, because it's a more intense. I don't know if it has anything to do with it or not. But you're right, there is a thing about drummers becoming, producers and mix engineers and things, which is funny because we're enduring the loudest of the loud.
Yeah, maybe the smallest ego in the band as well.
Yeah,
maybe.
Right.
Debatable. Leave your comments. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Eric, have you got any questions?
How was it transitioning from because when I was an intern and I was watching the engineer for Warren doing 6 days a week. Luckily it wasn't 7, but 6 days a week from 11 to 11, then going home and working more.
Yeah.
And I was just like, when I get that job, whether it's here or someplace else, can I do that? Can I keep up with that? Am I gonna burn out, this and that? But then when the opportunity came, as scared as I was, it just kind of like I just did it.
Yeah.
But like, how was that transition for you? Like, was it the same process of just being like, can I do that? And
I think that question is there's a great point that comes out of it that's not even answering your question. Is that I think you have to be obsessed with this stuff to be really successful in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because only somebody that is obsessed with it and can't do anything else is going to put up with the hours and the schedules that we have to keep. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
I think that you asked that question, how hard of a process was it? It was hard in the sense that you're tired. It's hard in the sense that you're not seeing your friends and your family, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But it's easy in the sense that I'm actually full-time surrounded by SSLs and Neves and all this stuff that you fantasized about your whole life leading up to that point. All of a sudden, you're surrounded by it, and so the passion part I think just takes over. It did for me, and I think most of the guys out there will agree. It's like you know. The kids that their parents may send them to this school or that school or whatever, because I've had those interns come through. Trust me, I've had the ones that don't make it to where we are. You know what I mean? And the one thing that is always missing has nothing to do with knowledge. It's passion. Right. It's pure heart. Yeah. If they don't have the heart for it, if they're more interested in man, it's Friday night, man, I kind of want to go out drinking with, you know what I mean? I kind of want to go out drinking with the guys. Then they're just not right for this field. It doesn't mean they're not talented. Yeah. Doesn't mean they don't love music with the same passion that me or you have. It just means that they're really not right for this career path. Because, man, if this is your passion, it's just hard to explain. It's everything. Yeah. I mean, this isn't a career; it's a lifestyle. Yeah. I mean, it is. It is. If you guys sign on board for this, I mean, you're signing on for an entire lifestyle. It's not hey, this is what I'm going to do from 9 to 5. I mean, right.
Would you say that the passion really helps the cream rise to the top?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Because the passionate people are going to be the ones that put in all the hours to get to the skill level up anyway. Yeah. But also musicians by nature, you know, they're artistic, so they're passionate people. We know when we're in the room, you know what I mean, kindred spirits, right? Like, you know who you lock into. It's like they're like me, you know. It's like they got that same fire and that same drive, and you know when somebody doesn't. Mm-hmm. So that said, I think musicians respect that when they see it back in the other people, and you're more employable. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
What would you say to people who feel like they're passionate, but they don't feel they feel driven, they're hungry, but they're struggling to get where they want to get, or they feel like they should be maybe further along than they are? Because Warren's always talking about networking. He said it doesn't matter what you know, what gear you have. It's how easy you are to work with, who you know, which is a big one. Right. What would you say to people feeling, I'm feeling stuck? Yeah. I want to move forward. Yeah.
I feel like you have to be in the right. If you're in the right rooms, everything takes care of itself. For me and every assistant and intern that I've ever had, literally they built their career off the fact that they were in the room. I mean, that's how every successful person that I've had come through my camp has been successful. They were in the room. And the only way to get in the room is sometimes you have to probably lower yourself, in some of these guys' cases, to work with somebody that's, you know, that maybe they think they're already on that level, but you have to lower yourself to work in that guy's camp, you know, at a lower level. Does that make sense? It's like I may have to clean some toilets. I may have to sweep some floors. I may have to, you know, he's actually going to be the one at the console, but I have to do all that other stuff to get to the console.
Yeah, because I think there's a big difference between being humble enough to admit that and think, okay, I need to sit back on this one and just observe and learn, but also then having the confidence and self-belief in yourself that you have the experience. You know, I kind of deserve to be in that room. Or is it a case of being invited? Because if you're quiet and timid, you might not get noticed. Right. But if you're loud and brash, everyone's like, well, who's this upstart?
The worst kids to have in my control room that come out of colleges and come through my camp are the most outgoing visitor. You know, I want to hang and chat with all the people. I don't want him in my control room. It's like you're causing a distraction.
Yeah.
I tell all my assistants, because I just brought on a couple new ones, and I had to tell them, it's like, your career is gonna develop because you're in the room with me. I don't mean that from an egotistical. It's like you're gonna not only. It's who you're gonna meet while you're in my room. It's not me. It's the other people.
Yeah. Like yours
That
developed.
come
from
and
being in the
go.
room with
That you're gonna. That person that, on this given Thursday that's here. You don't know this yet, but he's gonna become your client. And you're gonna be working with him 10 years from now. But you don't know that at the time, because some of the people that come through, they will never mingle with the interns or whatever. But when I say mingle, I'm talking about career-wise.
Yeah.
But there's going to be other people that, for whatever reason, I think it's our job as a Warren, as a me, as a Manny, Mark Daniel Nelson, whoever. When we do have these young people in the room, I think it's our job when we know they're ready to give them opportunities and recommend them to people. So I have an assistant that I'm thinking of right now that has a very successful career of her own, largely, not completely, but largely tuning vocals. She's really, really great at it. And her career was built on the fact it wasn't just that it's not enough to be a great vocal tuner and hear harmony parts and know that, oh, that's a half step flat, that needs to be here. If no one knows about it. So it takes, when I knew that she was great at it, it took me to not only hire her to do my records, but also when other producers were in the room to let them know, hey, this is, this is who I'm using right now. Like, she's doing great. Like, give her a shot,
so word of mouth.
And then they give her a shot, and all of a sudden they hire her more than you do. You know what I'm saying?
So word of mouth rather than being the loudest person on the job. Attention.
Don't go into the room and sell yourself. They'll come to you if you're, man, people don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear this. But if you have a servant mentality, so if you're the kind of intern that is not above bringing coffee to somebody, bringing water, I always watch when I used to go into a studio, when I would, if I needed a new assistant at the time, you know what I watched for? What kid was up sweeping the floors and emptying the trash.
Right.
I know that some of these viewers would be like, what are you talking about? All the stuff that they need to know here, I could teach them.
But it's attention to detail.
I wanted somebody that
not
had
being
work.
on the phone.
Exactly. I wanted work ethic. That I wanted to see somebody that feels like they have to constantly be improving something.
Okay.
If they're up and they're in a room and they're like, well, there's a candy wrapper on the floor, and they have the need to go down there and pick it up, that's the personality type. It has nothing to do with that candy wrapper. It shows something about their attention to detail and their need to make things better and improve the situation that's going to transfer to this. All of a sudden, they're going to be the one that hears something that's wrong in a mix or in a track or whatever, and they have the need to make it better and fix it.
Right.
That stupid candy wrapper says more about who they're going to become here than they would ever believe.
Because it's also improving the overall impression of your brand.
Oh yeah,
What you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, I feel like we need to talk about something that seems to be very popular on the internet at the moment, and I've had discussions with loads of people at different parts of the industry, which is Atmos.
Oh.
What are your thoughts on it? How serious is this? Is this what stereo was to mono 70 years ago? Is this the next 70 years?
Great question. And my answer is, I believe it is the next big thing. I really do. I did not buy into the 5.1, and I don't think it was any brilliance on my part. I just never seen it actually gonna go somewhere, and it turned out it didn't. Right, but the difference with Atmos and why so many of our peers are jumping on that we admire and respect is that for the first time, it's attainable at the consumer level. Not only attainable, it's going to be there for free. They don't even have to pay extra for it.
Yeah.
So when they go to, if they're already going to have an Apple Music account, they'll be able to stream Atmos.
Do you think the industry have missed a trick there, not monetizing that?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. The day that Apple announced that it was going to be free and not an upcharge, everything changed. Because on our side of the glass, I think we all along saw that it was going to be an upcharge thing. So we were going to be able to since Atmos the consumer's going to have to pay for it, and so that then we can monetize it. Now all of a sudden, if they buy earbuds, when they buy earbuds from Apple or whomever, it's going to be built in. It's already built into a lot of them, but I think it's going to be built into practically all of them soon.
Yeah, the technology will filter down
Right,
from
right.
expensive to cheap to
And Spotify,
online.
I know, isn't on board yet, but it will be. So all the streaming services are going to be including it because they have to compete with Apple. I mean, Apple's giving it away for free, so they have to.
But they're driving it in association with their AirPod Maxes, aren't they?
Yeah, right. But because if you're Spotify and they have this big shiny thing, you have to have the big shiny thing too.
Possibly, but
to hold
surely
your-
from a technological point of view, Spotify obviously pushed the speed of streaming so that almost, I think it's 0.2 seconds they wanted it from pressing play to hearing the music,
Uh-huh.
because any more than that was audible and it was a lag, and Daniel Ek wanted to get rid of the lag. Surely with Atmos, the files are so much bigger that there's going to be lag now when you first press play.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Which
haven't thought
most
about
people
that.
I wouldn't have thought would be bothered about, but I know Spotify.
I'm
will, so.
not. Like, that's an interesting. I wonder if that's an excuse more than it is reality. I don't
Yeah.
know. But here's something. If some of the guys that are watching hasn't been through the process yet, I was recently doing a whole lot of work in a Atmos equipped Genelec room. It's incredible. And so I was doing some Atmos mixing in there, and I had to be not the word isn't certified. I had to be approved by Universal.
Okay.
So you have to go through an approval process of submitting mixes, and they QC it, and they will either add you to the list or tell you what's wrong, and you'll get another shot to fix it, and blah blah blah. Anyway, I learned a lot of really valuable information going through that process that made me believe that it's here to stay, that it's legit. Because when major players like Universal is throwing this much money and this much attention to it, they believe it's going to stick, or they wouldn't be spending the money on it. So, and here's the thing: if you guys that use Pro Tools, I'm going to assume it's built into all the other DAWs. When you pull up Atmos, templates, and you can assign it to the speakers and all that kind of stuff, there's a little setting, and I can't remember what it's called, where you can change it from close to mid to far, to where, let's say, it's not enough to say I'm going to put it in this speaker right here, but when I put it in this speaker, is it in the binaural setting? Is it simulating that it's close to me, or far from me, or somewhere in between? Right now, you don't even hear that stuff. We put on headphones and with chain, it'd be like, this is nothing. I turned in my first Atmos mix, and it was rejected because I didn't use those settings. I'm like, how would they? You don't even hear it, and they're like, yet. This is the insiders at Universal,
Right.
That little Atmos team that they have in, I think the UK. I think they're in the UK, and so basically that's them saying, no, they didn't. I mean, they came right out with it. They believe the technology on earbuds will be so much expanded and so much greater than what it is now in a handful of years, that they want their mixers to go ahead and build this stuff into the Atmos mixing so it's future-proof. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because
So they-
apparently the software for developing the movement points, are they called? There's a name for it, but you have to have a certain amount of movement points now, which is fine for now, but apparently in 10 years' time we're going to go from 10 movement points to 100.
Exactly. They
and
are
future-proofing yourself so it works with those rather than saying
right. So something that's
disjointed is
mixed
quite
now,
important.
something that's mixed now sounds as great on headphones in Atmos 5 years from now as stuff that's actually being mixed 5 years from now, right? It's not already outdated
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So, in other words, my point is that if Universal is spending this much money and putting this much attention to the detail of it, they believe it's here to stay, and the fact that they have so much confidence in where the future of earbuds and things are going, that they're talking directly to the manufacturers.
Yeah.
I mean, like directly with the manufacturers, which means that I believe they're right.
Yeah.
So I believe it's here to stay.
They're starting to outfit venues for Atmos,
Mhm.
right? Because I think Vegas is working on their second venue. They already have one, and everyone talks highly about it.
Yeah.
And the second one is like a whole sphere building, so they
Yeah.
have the speakers like
Yeah.
everywhere.
In
They-
London, a friend of
literally.
mine does live production, and he did a major film premiere at a strange venue. It was a nice skating ring, sounded horrible, but the clients requested an Atmos rig with live sound stuff in the room. And I know some bands have taken it live, and apparently it's an immersive experience
theme
like
parks
nothing
are,
else.
yeah, theme parks are jumping on
Right.
it too for their different shows that they're.
Right.
You know, I know a guy who's made some money lately doing that kind of thing. You know,
I feel like
placements in rooms
Right.
at different moments, much like a theater, a
Yeah.
movie theater, but it's music. You know.
I feel like all this, though, from a supplier point of view, is basically it's so hard now to monetize everything in music and entertainment that we're almost volunteering to improve the quality of the experience and what we're delivering at no extra cost to maintain the same amount of sales and profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you're a label.
Well, that's saying herein lies the rub. That's the problem.
Because
It's-
surely by doing that, we're by devaluing the industry. Because I'd like to bring this back to these guys with two questions. One is how does this affect the average guy like myself who's mixing on a stereo system? Trying to find clients for that when in 5 years' time potentially Atmos is going to be the standard. Although there's a system, I think I can't remember the brand, they bought out a relatively cheap multi-speaker system that ticks all the Atmos requirements. It's relatively affordable. It's not going to be for a lot of people yet. So how do you think this affects guys like myself? And I've forgotten the second part of the question. Something about is it devaluing the industry further by providing more for the same money?
Well, in the short term, I think it's not devaluing us because there's only people that have really put the time and the effort and the money into it are the ones capable of doing it right now, doing it well. I've talked to so many Atmos guys that do a lot of it that say they're actually getting hired more and more to fix headphone guys' work. So the guys would do it in headphones, turn it in, and the label's like, and they would get hired to repair it, because things weren't translating right. You know what I mean? So they were making money off of their rigs, if that makes sense. But I know what you mean. You're talking about broad stroke. If you're not going to monetize Atmos, as far as a label, if a label's not going to make more money off of it because the streaming services are giving it away for free, I don't know. I think there's a lot of unanswered on that. I still think that's a very evolving. You know what I mean? I don't think we know yet. But I feel like it's the future. I really do. I don't think there's any getting away from it.
Right.
And I hate that in some ways? Yeah, because I'm so comfortable with stereo.
Yeah.
Do I love it in some ways because I've been in the room and I've done it and I've heard great classic works, spread out, and it's exciting, man. Like, it's exciting. But then I've heard the same thing on earbuds and be like, yeah, this is not at all what it sounds like in the room yet.
Yeah.
So I think there's a whole lot of unanswered questions that we can put together an Atmos panel, and I think at this point we're still guessing. And we're supposed to be the experts, but I think we're still.
Yeah.
I really think we're still guessing.
Was there this kind of, I wonder, like this kind of when everything was switching from just left, center, right, to the full spectrum, like if everyone was just like, is it needed, like blah blah blah, like mono to stereo,
right?
I mean, maybe this is, I don't know if it's the same process we're going through now of just stereo to Atmos.
I don't know
if products are going to be making new products, and like if it's going to be universal that every new product coming out is going to be for Atmos. I guess
I think that's the thing. I mean, I think it's becoming. They're making the little speaker pods and everything are going to be. Is it going to be true Atmos? No, but using phase tricks and things that make trick our ears, they're going to be able to simulate to some degree. Hey, that sounds like it's coming from. That sound is higher than this sound. It's coming from, and that is being. It's already those products are already for sale, and it's just going to. I think it's going to become a bigger and bigger and bigger part of the marketplace.
Right, and I think it's funny too because just the way that majority of people won't notice whether you're using this compressor over that compressor music, they don't care because they're just listening to music. Like an average consumer that is not into audio, like 90% of people aren't gonna probably don't even know what Atmos is or care. They just see a Dolby symbol or you know, they're just to
I-
them it's still just the music, and
I think
they have
there's a-
no difference.
yeah.
In what's going on.
I think right now a lot of people that are listening to it through their Apple earbuds and stuff they just click on it. They don't
even know what's going on.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like nothing's changed
Yeah.
to them, especially.
And you know, I've talked to a few of them, a few people that don't do what we do, that are still music people. And there's been some of them that didn't even like it because of where the technology is at right now. It just made it seem weird to them. You know what I mean? It's like it's not as solid as it was. It's a little weird. But again, I think all that stuff is going to level out and regulate as the technology
Someone in the
improves.
chat, Spill the Tea with She, has just mentioned that Sony have brought out or they're launching some headphones, I believe at the NAMM show this week, that is supporting Atmos, and I don't think they're the first, and they won't. You know, Apple are probably the first, maybe, and they won't be the last. So I think it'll take off as and when the technology for real, true spatial audio filters down to consumer level products that are affordable,
Yeah.
and by that I mean it'll really be here when products are available on Amazon.
And I think
Right.
Sheila brings up a point, or reminds me of a point, that we as engineers have to decide if this is how we're making our living. We have to decide if we're in those days right now, whether we're going to put the tens of thousands of dollars into the hardware, because right now you can't do it. Can you do it on headphones? Yes. Can you do it super accurately? Most everybody I know that does it on headphones say they have to go rent a room or send it to a specialist to at least double check their work.
Yeah.
You know, because they know that it may not Okay, so if that gets better, which would we have any reason to believe it won't? Yeah, I mean, of course it will.
Yeah.
So if you spend 40 grand on your speaker rig, and there's going to be headphones in let's say it's 2 years from now, and I don't know that it will be, but let's say it's 2 years from now before there's a set of headphones. It's like, yes, like that's just like being in the room that, you know, in an Atmos room, and it's $799, $800. All of a sudden, what if I'm the guy that just put 40 grand in a speaker rig? I'm going to be kind of pissed, right? Because all of a sudden, once again, the laptop guy in a coffee shop can do the same work that I can do, you know what I mean, and undercut me on price.
Yeah. It's a bit of a risk.
So it's a weird thing.
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a weird thing for our industry, right? I think you're seeing a lot of people that do what we do that are really putting a lot of thought into. I know I am, and I haven't spent the money yet. You know, I have not put my money into the rigs. I just keep thinking I'll just either stem it out and send it to a friend that does it, or go to another room and do it.
Yeah, right.
Just because I'm just being honest. I'm scared. Do I want my own rig? Absolutely. Am I scared that it will radically overinvest and there'll be a set of headphones that can do the same thing in 2 years? Yeah.
Because this must have been a big decision for you recently, because you've just built your own studio for mixing at home, right?
Right. Yeah.
Did you think about
I did.
filling it out, or did you think, right?
I did,
maybe put
except
the wall mounts in, but not by the speakers yet?
Well, but a couple years ago when I built the room and designed the room, we weren't where we are now.
Right.
So I, at that point, didn't believe as firmly as I do now that it's going to take off.
Okay.
And I wish hindsight was 20/20, because I would have already run the cable. I mean, the cable would have been built into the walls, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't,
Yeah.
now I'm thinking, oh, kick myself for not wiring that up.
I'm sure the wife will let you build another room.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Why not? Yeah.
So how do you think this relates to people like myself who are still trying to get my head around stereo mixing? You know, still trying to get to a point where I'm happy. I'm as good as I can go out and be really confident.
That's a good question. I think unless if you're not, are you having requests for it?
No, definitely not.
Then I don't think you spend the money. I think you wait and see if headphones become a reality. Mixing on headphones accurately become a reality in the next couple of years. I think the only people that need to be chasing it are guys that already have such an established client base that can support it. Otherwise, I think we're throwing that cash away.
Because I kind of feel like if I've heard some insider information where in the UK where the top mix engineers they have their fee and they're only getting a small percentage of that extra to then do another day's work creating an Atmos mix. So some people are outsourcing it to Atmos studios and Atmos specific engineers. But I feel like if relatively the value of those top engineers going out for their fee and now including an Atmos mix included or just for a little bit more, is the perception going to move to, well, there's less value in stereo? So the average independent artist that I might be mixing for is then thinking, well, if you can't provide Atmos, I don't think your stereo mixes are worth as much.
Right.
Or am I just being British and pessimistic?
Man, that's tough, because I think that's stuff that we're all thinking about and wondering about. And again, I think we can assemble a panel of big name people and we can spout our opinions, but I believe it's all complete opinion. I don't believe there's any fact to any of it yet. Right. I think it's all really, it's going to have to unfold in front of us and figure it out in real time. I don't think there's an answer yet.
Because the flip side of that could be that while all the big guys are doing Atmos, there's still a lot of people wanting stereo mixes for Spotify. So while you guys are doing away with the big label stuff, maybe there's more work for the stereo guys.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I've lost some sleep over it, trying to figure it out.
Really? Right, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's a lot of money. Because if I'm going to do it, because where I'm at career-wise, if I'm going to do it, I have to do it right. I can't turn in a headphone mix that doesn't pass QC and embarrasses me and in front of my client. It's like I can't have that yet. So if I'm going to do it, I have to nail it. And if I'm going to nail it, that means I have to either rent a room or build my own. And again, just like we were talking about, if that room becomes irrelevant in 2 years from now because headphones can do it, then I've just blown all that money. So man, I'm torn. I'm very, very torn on it.
I've just thought for some of the viewers who aren't quite sure how Atmos works, it is my belief that you do a full mix and then you export the file.
That's what I do.
To an Atmos software, a Dolby software, where you can create the movement points, and then then it will translate to a 7.1.4 system, is it?
So far, what I've done is I've mixed it in stereo, got it approved by the client, and then stemmed it out.
Right.
Just like, as we would. But sometimes you stem it out even more than you normally would. For example,
as in like bus stems or stemming every track again.
In stereo pairs,
right.
Like your keyboards, right?
Oh, yeah, so
but instead of like maybe we had 3 different passes of keyboards. What's cool is if the guy that is going to be doing the stereo mixing is also, or the guy that's going to be doing the Atmos mixing is also the one that did the stereo mixes. Because in your mind, you can break things out a certain way when you do stem it. So if right now you may go, traditional stems, here's the all keys, here's all acoustics, here's all electrics, whatever. Whereas if you're going to be the one doing both, you may, what I found myself doing recently when I was doing Atmos mixes, and that any of my followers know that big room I was working in Branson for a while, I would bounce stuff differently, stem things differently if I knew I was going to be doing an Atmos version mix of it. Meaning that the strings in an orchestra wouldn't just be a left and right. We would do most of our strings bus to a single pass of left and right, because that's our primary string thing. But we would take some of the room mics, like let's say there were 4 passes of strings total, to make up this big orchestra sound. We would take the room mics, some of the room mics from a couple passes and print them separately, not within the major group, but on a secondary string group, and that would be the ones that we'd throw behind us. But you only think that way if you're the one that's going to be doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
So like when we look at our electric guitar stem, we don't maybe put all electrics in there. That one guitar part I want to do something different with. So you stem it separately.
I want to go.
Right. You stem it.
Delays.
You stem it separately, but you're only thinking that way if you're the one that's going to be doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to answer your question, stem everything out. You put it inside your DAW of choice, and then just route it. And there's more to it than that. I mean, there's effects. You don't just assign it to speakers. There's immersive effects too, delays and reverbs and stuff. So you may put something in the front and send it to a delay that's coming out of the back, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, man, it's a lot of fun.
Right.
Headphone people out there that's done it in headphones and haven't done it in a real room yet probably aren't getting the full effect. I mean, like, it's a blast. When we printed an overhead track one time separately from the rest of the stem, so we can make the cymbals go a little higher. I mean, it's fun and exciting. Time consuming. We're not making that money back into the. When we're really having fun, we're putting time into it, right? You know, it's like, this is fun, and so you're not going to monetize that fun back. But most of us that got into this field, again, like we were talking earlier, it's because of our great passion for this stuff and the music. And so that extra little bit of time here and there just to have a good time is what we have to do to fuel ourselves anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's fun. It is a good time. It's a really good time.
Eric, is Warren thinking about it?
There's been some talks for the new place to have, you know, whether it will or will not. I don't know too much detail, but there has been ideas. We'll see. I think it would be awesome to get into it, just to kind of have fun and just see. Even if it does, and if it doesn't take off, then, you know, we all give it a try. And Bruno was bringing in a question from Russell that Russell asked earlier, and we kind of touched on it. Was like, how is the average consumer going to benefit from Atmos in their average listening environments? Well, Atmos in earbuds, is it that much better than stereo?
Not yet. In fact, there's times where right now, to me, with even using the Apple, what is it called, the Pros or whatever they're called?
Yeah.
It's almost a little, dare I say, distracting. I would almost rather hear the pure stereo thing. But it goes back to my conversation with the insiders at Universal. That technology is going to greatly improve rapidly, in their opinion. So I think I think everything that we're here's the long and short of it, guys. I think all the decisions we're doing and making right now are for the future, not for where the consumer's at right now. It's all based on where the consumer will be a couple years from now, because they may have a stereo something or another, you know, in their bedroom or you know, the earbuds that they're currently using are stereo only. But I think that will be a very different world, reality of our world in 5 years from now. After this boombox is broke, so they replace it with a new little Amazon Echo Dot that all of a sudden is immersive. You know what I mean? I think our world is going to evolve, you know, technology-wise, to where the consumer is largely hearing immersive. I really do. I really believe that.
Do you think there'll be some pushback in terms of with then going to be mixing for the medium? Like, I know mastering engineers who boost 203 to 4K because that makes things sound loud and good on the phone, through phone speakers or through certain headphones. They're mixing for the medium. Do you think this is going to be mixing for the medium rather than the art form? Or has it always been mixing for the medium? Like vinyl, you'd top and tail it EQ-wise a little bit to get more tracks on?
Well, I think productions are 100% going to be, will slowly start evolving. Not in every genre, by any stretch of the imagination. Bluegrass, orchestral. I mean, there's a lot of things where we're not going. It's just not going to change. It's an art form that's been the way that it is forever. But I think a lot of more modern pop style music and things, I think the productions will start from the mindset of Atmos, which I think is what you're getting at. There's going to be more and more, I think, of our software instruments, sound libraries, and everything are going to be Atmos friendly from the beginning. Do you know what I mean? There's already, how many reverbs? I mean, great reverbs are out there, you know, right now. I wish I could remember some of the names that we were using when I was over there. That was a handful of months ago. I've already forgot. But some great sounding reverbs. And I remember thinking, dang, I wish they made this in stereo. This sounds so good. But Seventh Heaven, you know, I mean, there's, you know, the patches that go with the Bricasti, you know, I mean, it's 7.1.4 capable, I think, already. I think, yes, I think productions will start, in some genres, will start with Atmos in mind right from the beginning. Yeah.
I know at Sweetwater, when we were at their studio, they were already talking about like some stuff that they were recording it with the Atmos in mind. So it's like recording things, miking rooms, as if it was an Atmos room. Putting the mics in the placements where the speakers would be.
Absolutely, we're already doing that in the, like, on orchestra dates and various things. I did a big, well, it's a Walt Disney thing. trying not to name drop it, last summer, and because it was last summer, I already had a lot more information in here, about where the world was going, Atmos-wise. So we put, in addition to the normal orchestrals, the room mics are always in the front, and the orchestra's facing them, right? You got your big deck of tree. A lot of times you have a wide pair too, but we're also throwing microphones in the rear so we can complete the picture. Like you're talking about, the listener is here. You're getting the complete picture of being in the middle of the room, and so we recorded it that way, future proofing it for when Walt Disney wants it in Atmos.
That's cool.
And but that's just one record. To get to your point, yes, that's becoming a normal part of. I'm working on a project right now where we use 3 sets of room mics on drums specifically for Atmos. So you got your closest room mics. You got if they want mid mics, they're further away from the kit, and we intentionally used a model that was a little darker. And then we used another set of room mics further back. That's the third set, further away from the drum kit. That's the darkest. It's ribbons, and so the further you get away from the drum set is up there still, right? When you're listening, you're looking at the drummer. The further away the sound gets from you into the room, it gets darker and further away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's already affecting mainstream production already. Even if we're not mixing it that way, I think there's a lot of us that also do recording that are recording differently now. Sometimes, if not every day.
Well, as someone still trying to get my head around mixing, this is terrifying.
No, I think it is to all of us. It's
Right.
fun, but it's scary, man. It's a new frontier,
Yeah.
It's scary.
So I have to ask and pick your brains about this because this is the first time we've had the pleasure of meeting. What bit of advice would you give to people, up and coming mix engineers, of which I'm assuming a lot of people in the academy are? What advice would you give them to be successful?
Ooh, that's great.
Which may need your definition of success may need defining with that.
Right. I if I could do some things in my career differently, I have nothing to complain about. I've been very blessed, very fortunate. But when you look at some opportunities that didn't come your way, that went to other guys, and various things, you notice that kind of stuff and what would have been different. And I think I jumped in right at a high level because of who I was working with, Bobby Bradley. We didn't do demos, man. We were doing albums and things right away. So whereas some of my friends got started maybe on a lower scale, but they were meeting a whole lot of songwriters that I wasn't meeting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they were cutting lowly demos, which at the time seemed lower. You know what I mean? It's like, he's already working on records, and we're cutting these demos that no one's ever going to get to hear. But they were in the room with songwriters whom you don't know who's going to be the next successful songwriter, and which one of those successful songwriters is going to become the next successful producer. So I had guys that were at one time seemingly below me as far as like what we were working on. All of a sudden jump up and say, "What? He's tracking a Carrie Underwood record? Are you freaking kidding me?" Like how? Because he was in the room with that songwriter who all of a sudden got asked to produce the next record, and that songwriter was like, "I got to put together a team. I know this guy."
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally that innocent.
Yeah.
It wasn't. He was in the room. It goes back to what we were saying earlier. You got to get into the right rooms.
Right.
He was in the right room. At the time, it seemed like it was beneath where he wanted to be, but it led to something greater. And that didn't just happen to me once, by the way. So point number one being get in the room with songwriters, meet songwriters. Demos, I don't care how lowly they seem at the time, you don't know where that songwriter's future is. I mean, they literally, one of their songs get picked up by the right artist. That right artist digs their demo, and all of a sudden they're producing a single on the record, and then maybe they're producing the whole album on the next album. You don't know. So I think, man, interact with songwriters.
Okay.
That's something that I did not do. That in hindsight I wish I could change.
That's a great
Yeah.
tip.
Great
That's
answer,
awesome.
yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
It's a thing, man. I wish it didn't happen to me more as many times as it did, because it's a little like, are you kidding me? Carrie Underwood. But, yeah. Oh well, it is what it is. But the other thing is, I just can't get away from being likable, being just a good dude. Because we're not all of us don't have that personality of being real friendly and whatever. But I think the guys out there that know that it's like, well, yeah, you know what? He's talking to me. I'm really not a people person. I don't interact with people real well, or what. We know. I think we all know our personality types generally. We're kind of aware of who we are. Mm-hmm. I think need to work hard to become, you know what I mean, friendly and almost servant-minded. One thing that I always tell my staff, as soon as those musicians pull up in the driveway, you're out there to greet them, and you're carrying their guitars.
Yeah.
Right? Like he may be carrying 8 of them in. He needs to get all them in one trip, because my team needs to be out there carrying his guitars in. We're serving, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And me too. You're like, well, it's cool for you to tell your kids that. No, that goes for me. I'm leading the way. Like, I'll be out there with them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I see guitar player pull up and come on guys, let's do this. And I think being likable and being a servant isn't a lowly thing to be. You have an endearing personality, I think. You know what I'm saying? They want to work with you, and they want to be with you because you're genuinely like a good hang. It's like this guy's got my best interest at heart. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I just think being good people is just a huge.
Yeah.
People think it's their mixing skills, their recording skills, their Pro Tools knowledge. Man, they just want to. If they want to be in the room with you, so much of the rest of it will take care of itself. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
It just really, really will.
I hear the same thing from Warren all the time.
It's a thing.
It's the character. He'll choose the character and personality over the person that is more
technically qualified.
Yeah, exactly. But it just doesn't have a good vibe or whatever.
Right.
Like,
thinks they're too good for certain things.
Yeah.
I've had that. Those interns that come through that don't make it, and I know they're never going to make it just because of their personality. And it's a shame because they spend a lot of money at Full Sail or Belmont or whatever university, and or their parents did, whatever the case may be. And they may genuinely love music too, but they're never going to make it because their personality is completely wrong for this industry. Yeah. Yeah, and
that's a tough one to have to be honest with yourself about.
But they need to. They need to because it's something you have to work on. If your nature is not that, you have to force yourself into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm serious. I can't be any more realistic about it. Like if they think, man, if I could just get in the right room, if I could get into Warren's room and be his assistant, if I could, Joe's or whomever, and they would see the skill that I have and everything's going to take care of itself. Maybe not. Like if you're kind of, not as approachable, not as teachable, as you think that you should be, maybe that 3 months that you spend time in that room seals your fate more than it. You know what I mean?
Gives them time to also just like reflect on themselves, because like Warren's told a story before of how and he's probably also heard it from other mentors of his, that person comes in and they're not right, they're still, they have to learn a couple things, whether it's studio etiquette or just being a better person, the way they carry themselves in the studio. And sometimes the best thing is to fire them because it gives like a reality check, and then the next opportunity, if they push through it and they want to work towards it and they look at themselves and what went wrong there, they can improve upon that. And then Warren meets them again later on and sees that they're a different person in a better way. Like they're more professional, they're more whatever it was that was wrong is not there anymore, and they're just and they're successful. They're able to, because they pushed through and they looked at themselves rather than being like, oh no, F that guy, blah blah blah, this and that.
Right. Yeah.
And keep that mentality going on.
It's a fact. I tell my team, because it's the way I live. Session day, it's you're not an actor. I mean, you're still being yourself, but it's showtime. Like you got to be you can't have a bad day.
Yeah.
I mean, no day in the studio in front of a client can be a bad day. I can have a bad day with my team. You know, like if things went wrong technically or whatever the case may be, you know, we can have a discussion after the fact, and you can ask them. Everybody thinks I'm, so happy and friendly, and I generally am. But if something goes wrong on a session and it's one of my team members' fault, trust me, I can get unfriendly. All that, but that's when I have, or Warren. I mean, we have to be. It's our job, right?
Yeah.
Because it reflects on us. But that to say, that unfriendliness and that maybe cursing, raising your voice, whatever the case may be, that's for your team. That's for the inside group. That's never in front of your clients.
Yeah.
You're happy. You're all smiles. You're like, I believe in dress. I believe that dress for success is even a thing in the studio world. I think that you need to be your best version of yourself every day in the studio when the clients are present. Every day, and there's no exceptions to that, because you don't know when that day could be your last day with that client. Because there's
or your next big opportunity.
This is such a competitive industry.
Yeah.
And so I think you always have to be the best version of yourself in front of the people that matter. And I think when those guys get the chance to be in the room with some more established engineer, I think they have to really take that seriously. Dress well. If you're on time, I mean, if you're on time, you're late, right? I mean, always be a little bit early. Always look for stuff to do, like taking out trash, stocking the refrigerator with soda. A big one that I've noticed on some of the most successful people that have come through my camp is water or coffee. Or if they see me finish a water, like while I'm mixing and or whatever, all of a sudden, secretly, quietly, another water appears on that table. Or, you know what I mean? Or a coffee. The coffee gets refilled or whatever. That kid gets it. They get it. And I know that has nothing to do with what the sound that's coming out of the speakers. But what I can't stress enough is that's what keeps you in the room until you get your opportunity to bring your personality out of the speakers.
Because I guess at the end of the day, from that level all the way to your level, it's a service industry.
It is.
We're servicing
that's the
an
thing.
Artist, a client, a label.
Yes.
It's all going up.
Give them our best on time every time. And I know it seems lowly to do those kind of things we're talking about, but if a Warren Hewart, when you start working for him, wants to keep you in his room just because he likes you, the people that you're going to meet when you're in Warren's room, or engineer whomever, A, B, C, and D, is where your career is going to develop. Mm-hmm. But they got to want you in that room, and everything else comes from being in the room. So my biggest, I think, getting back to your question, for these guys, my answer is do whatever you have to do to get into the room. I mean, I know sometimes that may mean scary things like moving. It may mean taking on roommates. It's like, wow, if I'm going to be this guy's like lowly paid intern or even an unpaid intern for 3 months just to make this thing a go, it means I'm going to have roommates, like 4 of them or something like that. Like my lifestyle may have to be less than for a while, but that's what it's going to take to get into that guy's room and watch everything take off. I mean, man, I wish there was a way you didn't have to start at the bottom in this industry. And maybe there's some people out there may have some success stories that say that you can skip all that stuff and go right to, but
leave a comment if you do.
Yeah, but I don't think I think there's exceptions, but I think the hard and fast rule is you have to start at the bottom and learn the ropes.
It's crazy though, because I think, and we can also wrap up after this, because it seems like internships are becoming less of a thing. Having interns, having assistants, I've seen, and I hear a lot of people saying that there's less and less of that.
I think anybody out there that's watching that is a professional, that this is your full-time gig. I know I had a hard time taking assistants at one time. I did, because you think you're thinking competitive. It's like, no, this is my gig. Like I need to. It's hard to delegate until you experience delegating, and it's like, wait, the world didn't end after all. And that fear that somebody's going to take your job 3 years later after you teach them all your chops and all that kind of stuff. But in my experience, that's just not a reality. You get so much more benefit, and I'm not talking about because your trash is getting emptied. I'm talking about even like on a personal level. You get so much more benefit from taking interns and assistants than you do.
Someone's just luminous brilliance has just said service is its own reward.
That's true.
Which struck me as a good
I
comment.
think, speaking to my other engineer friends out there that are already working pros, take an assistant, take an intern, and sew back into them, because I just think it's the right thing to do, man. I think you'll find that if you're hesitant to take an intern, or you're going to find that was all for naught. That you're going to love having them in the room, as long as you find a personality that matches you. But I think it's a way of giving back into the industry that doesn't hurt us. It all of a sudden, I can take on, because when I have good assistants, I can take on more work, right? Because I know it's going to be prepped well when I get to mix it. And when I'm done mixing it, they're going to stem it out and all that kind of stuff accurately, and I don't even have to get involved in any of that kind of stuff. I can take more projects now than ever if I have a good team. So give those give the young people a shot. Give them a shot.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I guess that's a wrap.
Woo!
Thanks for watching, guys.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe, for coming on.
Yeah, nice
Pleasure
to meet
to
you,
chat
buddy.
to you.
Nice to meet you. And Eric, thanks for being, on camera with us.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's always, everyone here knows, they've seen my journey of being forced on Warren's pee breaks to go on camera and just kind
Pee
of,
break.
yeah, and I kind of like, I don't know what, I'm a deer in headlights. The first time he did it, I didn't know what to do, and I was so awkward, and I still am. So I just tell jokes.
There you go.
Just to by the time.
So is it like toilet reading every morning, and add a couple to the roster.
Yeah,
Just in
yeah,
case.
it's exactly. It's a consistent thing, and I still do it every Friday. I still do it, except the past 2 months, everyone knows I've been a little laggy on my jokes because I can't. I've done so much, I can't come across new ones that are worthy.
Ah.
So,
Worthy
but
of channel safe.
yeah, that's true.
Holding Warren's gentlemanly reputation.
A proper British joke.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for letting us do this and being on camera and hanging with the Academy.
Yeah.
It's always a great hang, and it's awesome having you guys here and just.
Absolute pleasure and an honor.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Till next time.
It's been emotional.
We'll see you around.
And if you're in LA coming to NAMM and you see us in the hallways, man, stop and say hello. I'd love to meet some of you guys.
Absolutely. Or you can, if you don't have a NAMM pass, just wait outside and just try to find us. All right. Later, everyone.
Bye bye.